I was what they call an elite basketball level. So I was playing at a national level, and that transferred through into seniors up to WNBL. I'm
Yep.
not a gym junkie. I can find any excuse in the world not to go to a session that I have just arranged. Blew my knee out, my ACL, when I was 40. Then 18 months later, managed to snap the Achilles on the other side. And what that really should have told me at that stage is that rehab is really important. They suggested was cortisone injections, it was a bursitis. But the part that was missing was that can do something for pain relief and it can reduce swelling. But if we don't supplement that, once again, rehab, and you sort of go all those years of wasting hours in the gym, and why I didn't want to go to the gym, because if I didn't have enough time to put the drive time to get there, the hour to hour and a half in the gym, then it was like I could talk myself out of that quite easily.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show that helps you become more confident in your body so you can keep doing the things that you love. My name is Dermansky. I'm the Senior Physiotherapist at MD Health, and I've got a special guest with me, Lyne Strmecki. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much.
So let's read a little bit of introduction about Lynn as well. So today we're talking about how to improve your long-term strength without always going to the gym. Lynn's a client of ours as well. She's played competitive sport all her life, from junior to more senior, higher, lower levels as well, and still plays competitive basketball today. Lynn, just a little bit about yourself. Tell me about a little bit more about your sporting history, I guess your work history as well, and your sporting life before you came to see us about a year ago.
I had always been a basketballer. Being tall always added to a natural selection into teams, but that allowed me to go quite high. So I was what they call an elite basketball level. So I was playing at a national level, and that transferred through into seniors up to WNBL.
Yep.
So you have a set, routine. You'd be training so many times a week, both with a team or individually. But at that stage, it was more skill type things, or you'd go for a run or you'd go to the gym. That was the way that was built up. And then as, your life evolves and you start working, you've got to fit all that in around it. And then you get married, have kids, or at least that's the pathway I took. And you then start running around after them and you reduce your own commitments usually. So I went down to a lower level of sort of senior playing, so I could fit the training in around it. And then as I got to a stage where I was like, this is probably, my body is not holding up as well when I'm heading into my middle to late 30s, and there's more kids, you can't get them babysat as easily, that I reduced down to, say, a domestic type game or several a week, and then started coaching. And the coaching also took me to an elite pathway. So I was a state level coach, both 16s and under 20s in the women's stream, as well as coaching up at is still called Big V for senior level as well. So I was always evolving, and so there. Then one of my kids took a complete left-hand turn and became a kayaker. And so I became a riverside support person, learning how to haul kayaks on top of roofs and all that type of thing. But it meant that I cut down my own level of sport. And then as they, aged as well and could drive themselves and didn't need someone there to do stuff with them, that's where I started being able to go back into a bit more sport. But as we hit COVID, that was really the point where everything stopped. And you can't I didn't have the motivation. I played team sports because of the social aspect that helps me get there. I'm not a gym junkie. I can find any excuse in the world not to go to a session that I have just arranged with myself, to turn up.
Yes.
So that's probably my big sporting, it's always played a part. And that was where now when I'm, hitting it into my, the latter part of my 50s, playing things like masters tournaments and catching up with people. It's more about the social contact as opposed to necessarily looking for high level sport. Our brains think we can do things and they say, hey, if you do that, your body can follow. Not always true. I blew my knee out, my ACL, when I was 40. So came back from that. And then 18 months later, managed to snap the Achilles on the other side. And what that really should have told me at that stage is that rehab is really important.
Yeah.
um, and that's possibly why when I hit into that post-COVID and COVID time, a lot of things that I'd been managing all that time seemed to really start kicking in. So hip pain and not being able to, sleep on your side and sitting down for too long would start. You'd get up and you'd hear the old person noises. And it was like, okay, I've got to get something done. So I went to medically go and get checked out. And what they suggested was cortisone injections, it was a bursitis. But the part that was missing was that can do something for pain relief and it can reduce swelling. But if we don't supplement that, once again, rehab, then you're going to reoccur because you haven't fixed anything about what started it. And so by the time, probably for the 12 months before I came in and started seeing you guys, I was going to an osteo, getting up to, every fortnight at one stage because I'd just be feeling okay. I'd go and do gardening or I'd go and help my kids move house. That put the back going. That got my back that I'd never injured before, all of
Yes.
a sudden making me feel like it's stopping me from doing my life.
Yeah.
And that was my big wake up. And in the end, my osteo said she was quite happy to keep taking my money if I wanted to keep paying her and seeing her on such a regular basis. But
Yeah.
for my own benefit, I needed to go and do some strength and conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when we started our conversations about a year ago. It's been just over a year ago now as
Yeah,
well.
we've just clocked up over the year. And I still
Yeah.
remember coming in and asking you the question, is half an hour really going to be any use at all? And the smile on your face, and now I understand why, because after having gone through a year of half-hour sessions, and I build up to the 3 times a week because I find that's really useful for my lifestyle.
Yes.
Um, and, you sort of go, all those years of wasting hours in the gym and why I didn't want to go to the gym because if I didn't have enough time to put the drive time to get there, the hour to hour and a half in the gym, and then if you didn't have that 2.5 hours to spare, then it was like I could talk myself out of that quite easily. So, yeah, it sort of flies in the face of everything that I'd grown up with through my sporting career. And that was right from the Institute of Sport all the way through because that was the knowledge at the time.
I mean, we know better now that it's not volume, volume, volume. It's good concentrated work and then stop and let your body adapt. And that's, I mean, we're talking about this now in your 50s as well, but it's not really a different story in your 40s and 30s and 20s as well.
Oh,
It's not more, 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 more. It's appropriate load, stop, and then recover, repeat. And that's what's allowed the adaptation to occur. So it's not always a volume. People can do a lot of jump training as well, and by spending hours in the gym, and they're just fatigued, and they haven't loaded themselves enough. So we want to push people to what their limits are within that period of time, but then stop. Like let the body actually do its job and adapt. And one of the biggest things that is probably the most important factor when we talk about recovery is that the growth occurs between sessions, not during sessions. And so the whole point of that half an hour, whatever time you spend, I mean, even if you spend more time in the gym as well, there has to be a concentrated effort that half an hour is to load the areas up that you're not good at, that you need to work on, and then stop and let the body recover. The growth occurs overnight. So over that night, the next night, the body will lay down more cells. So you want to work with the biology, with the body, as opposed to fight against it too. So in terms of the 2 to 3 times a week with half an hour, adult concentration spans about 29 minutes. And so beyond that, there's a lot of jump training in and out around that too. So it doesn't have to be more than that. But the timing is really important. As you said, 3 times a week, you build up to that too. That is really the sweet spot, about 3
yeah.
times a week. Like what Monday, break, recover, Wednesday, break, recover, then Friday or Saturday, break, recover.
Yeah.
And so with particularly strength training as well, you want that load, the stimulus, the rest, let it adapt, let it change. So when you come in next time, we can push you. And so the rest periods are part of our plan or the instructor's plan to make sure we get your best from your body and the biggest growth factor we can. And all those elements are super important.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time we forget because it creeps in on us as we age
Yeah.
that our body and our muscle tone and strength and what we're doing It's what we're repeating is what's actually staying with us. And sometimes we modify to adapt. And I know my body has throughout the years, throughout injuries and so on. I've still been able to do things, but possibly not recruiting the right muscle groups, which has meant that then much later down the track, and that's where I've found it's that repercussion of doing that has meant that eventually those muscle groups get tired or they get
Yeah.
overused. And then that's why you get a lot of that cascading effect. And we all assume that as we're aging, we can still do the same things that we did when we were 20. Well, we probably figure not 20, but the 30s and 40s, especially when you're around kids when they're young, there's a lot of unintended exercise that you're doing. You're
Yeah.
picking up, you're bending, you're lifting. And when I was coaching, that's what I really noticed when I stopped coaching, apart from getting a lot of time back to myself, is that my fitness level dropped because I wasn't doing all that demonstrating. I wasn't running around, moving with them, trying, because I coach from under 12s upwards.
Yeah.
And you do tend to have this just unintended benefit of exercise because you're moving. And COVID really taught me that we stopped. A lot of people, apart from going for a walk, they didn't have that unintended exercise. It just helped them keep going and moving and doing things. And for me, sitting down and staying within a 5 kilometre radius and not going out to sport and not doing that movement, like and I've got to admit, when you start playing social domestic sport, you're not doing warm-ups. You're not doing any rolling, stretching. Your stretching might be leaning in a couple of different directions.
Yeah. Not the same.
Sometimes when you're running late because you've done the shopping before you got there, you could be running onto a court. So it really was, it wasn't like your perfect preparation. And same as with, there was no warm down. What I was espousing when I was coaching with, the stretching, rolling, preparing, warming up, it certainly wasn't translating to my own game by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, and I want to go back to what you said near the start as well. You talked about, what happened during COVID as well, and it is a very interesting time because, we were allowed to exercise, which meant we were allowed to go do for a walk for a period of time, for half an hour, whatever that was. But and then we got accepted the fact that exercise was a walk, but it's the loads aren't enough. Your muscles need more load than that. Look, walking's a good activity for some
Yeah.
cardiovascular fitness and to just get you moving, but the loads are the same. So there's no need to adapt very much. After a short period of time, adapt very, very fast. So it's just volume of activity. There's no strength effect. There's no building effect as well. And so a lot of people did get used to that being exercise, but they lost that whole strength. We have a few clients of ours that are, in their late 60s as well. And I mean, they were when they early 60s and late 60s now, where they got to a certain strength before COVID, and then all they'll allow us to do is walk. And it's taken us actually this long, which is now 5 years afterwards, to get them back to where they were pre-COVID. And it wasn't an age thing; it's the fact that we'd lost that much strength because we weren't allowed to do it for 2 years to go back to where they were. I mean, it's a time volume thing, but it takes longer than people think. And then we were amazed how long it took to people get strength back and how much they lost during that period of time because of that real reduction in strength training during that period. I wanted to go on back another step as well. So when you first came to CS Tour, you said half an hour, and you asked me that too. What did you expect from the process? Like you were told by osteo, come and do rehab as well. What did you expect from the process? And what did that actually look like between when we first started and over the last 12 months or so?
Okay. My experience with strength and conditioning had really come from what my kids had attended, which was
Right.
an elite level strength and conditioning, which we were lucky that we got onto a very good person that was his business, strength and conditioning, and was really focused. And their sessions were only for a fixed period as well, but there was the hour because they incorporated a lot more into the evolution. And for kids if you're already driving to Oakley from where I was, it was a long drive. You wanted to get your value for money in that.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I had an awareness about targeted training, but it was a lot more of a very limited range of certain things. So it wasn't that they had a lot of variety. And then, so that type of thing I had that in mind, but I'd also done Pilates before. So,
Mm.
and the one thing that was for rehabbing my Achilles,
Yeah.
and that was good, but it was a set program. So out of both of those in my mind, I still had and was the same thing that made me bored in the first place at the gym,
Yeah.
was doing the same thing all the time. And because my body and my mind is a great cheater. I cheat and find shorter ways to do stuff when I'm bored.
You and
And
everyone
that's
else, by the way.
but that was a big thing, is that we're working the the big attraction was we're working in small groups. So someone's watching what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if I'm not doing something quite the right way, then it's being, picked up and being corrected. And if I'm finding something too hard, it's also being noticed because I might have the wrong weight that's going. But then even incorporating free weights into use with the different exercises and using reformers was different again. I'd never done that. But I have to say, after 12 months of doing it 3 times a week, I
Yeah.
still haven't done the same session twice, which is, to me, bewildering that someone can, because you have such a different program that is adapting to the first thing anyone asks me, how are you feeling today? If
Yeah.
I've got anything niggling me, anything that's going on, that I've slept funny and my neck's feeling sore, I was doing lifting and possibly the wrong way, and oh, my back's flared, and or my knee, which it's going to be an ongoing management problem for me throughout my life. That, oh, it's inflamed. So then whatever was possibly on their mind or program that was going to be done, that's adapted around whatever my soreness or injury is currently going.
Yeah.
So that then helps. Whereas, if I was at home, I'd avoid using that part.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys tend to go, no, 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 we need to stretch this part out. We need to support that by doing this. We'll change that round. And it does. You can not necessarily at the time when you're doing it, but in the rest of that day and the following day, it's improving because
Yeah.
of what's been done in that actual session.
So that's really great insight too, because I mean we've many years ago, 20 years ago when we started the program as well, it's over 20 years ago now. It was we thought, oh, we'd be able to design a program and then people would be able to follow, and we would be a nice linear pattern. And never happened that way. No one's linear, and they never are.
Yeah.
And so, we have a beautiful plan, and we see the students do this all the time as well. I mean, as a senior practitioner, you come in and you see the student, I've got a great plan for Lynn, like, okay, have that as a template. Just be aware you may have to adjust things. So then we have a beautiful plan, and the client comes in, and that the plan goes out the window. So usually what we do is have the principles of what we're going to work on. We know what direction we want to take you. We know the muscle groups and the areas we need to strengthen with you, and then the specifics we change depending on what you are feeling like at the time. So it might be I'm going to do this exercise with you, and I've got a plan of this kind of weight, and then it's been a bad day, and you've done something in the garden on the weekend as well, or you've been helping children move house, and this is sort of like, okay, today Lynn can't do this, but I can get this done with her. I still want to get these things achieved, and these are the areas I want to work on, but we'll have to adapt it. Or like, today's a great day. I'm going to push her. I'm going to see where her limits are. I'm going to go right to the very edge, because I want to make sure that you're working on your biggest limit as well. I mean, this is, you're talking, the biggest thing I think the advantage you're talking about is having to work with health professionals on on
Absolutely.
conditioning, is that our job as health practitioners, whether it's here or anywhere else, is to make it specifically targeted to what your needs are, and to see, are you at your limit? Because I mean, the changes and the best results are when we're pushing you to that very limit, and we're always on that knife edge. From our point of view, it's always a tough game, because we want you on that knife edge, where we want you doing a little bit more than we're comfortable doing, but not too much that you are going to injure you as well. Because that's where the adaptation's going to occur, but also then taking respect from what you're saying and where your body's at that period of time. So that fine balancing act is what our role as health practitioners are. Anyone can write a program, that's easy, but making sure that we're always on that knife edge is really where the skill level and the training of the health practitioners comes into real effect. Yeah, it's going to be different. I mean, we want to give you variety. I mean, your brain for movement is not great at lateral thinking. It doesn't think, I'm going to do Y and I'm going to be good at Z. It doesn't do that. So the more variety of stuff we can give you when you're under our supervision, the more chances that when you're not in front of us, and you're outside, your body says, I know what to do. I've done this before. I know exactly what I'm needed out of this. And that's where the adaptations occur. So that, the variety wasn't an original part of what we decided 20 years ago, but realized it was such a key to making people have a better life, that the more variety based on the specifics of what we want to achieve with you, um, has such a huge life-changing effect, that it's what we end up doing. And that's why you said it's been 12 months and you haven't done the same session twice. That's on direct purpose, because we want to give you as much brain, as much variety, that when you're not with us, you know exactly what to do.
And the nice part is that you also incorporate information from our health professionals. So when I go to
Yeah.
the osteo and they've, you know, worked on a certain part, and she'll come back and say, look, she'll write down a little bit of a list and say, hey, look, pass this back. And then next thing you know, that's being incorporated
Yeah.
into what we're working on, because it's all, and that's a big part is what I found of my kids going through sporting teams and so
Yeah.
on as we went, was that everyone has to work as part of a team supporting you. But if you don't ensure that the conduits of information flow, then no one person can help you any more than you allow them to. And that's why my osteo, being able to pass on information, and you guys go, yep, take that on board, add that knowledge there, fix that there. It also means that my osteo bill has gone down dramatically. So that's a major plus for me. But it also means that she can see the difference in my body. That there's always going to be tweaks and that, because life happens and we
Yeah.
don't always do things the right way. Like when my dog decided to run through me as I was carrying the washing basket up, and I landed straight down. That was then my body was able to, even though it was caught by surprise,
Yeah.
fared a hell of a lot better than I thought it was going to. And
Yeah.
then just the way that the sessions still kept going after that, where I was just, making sure that those strengthening around the areas, the jarring that I managed to get, it just didn't seem to have anywhere near as bad an effect on me as what I had thought it could have had. Landing slips, trips and falls for people as they're aging are our biggest fear. And it also, like in research has been shown that you become more cautious. You have one accident, one issue, and it goes. So then when I'm playing sport, the way I've noticed it is you're not going to be diving on that ball the same way,
Yeah.
because you know that getting up's going to hurt, take longer. It's going, the jarring on your body is different. Like the type of game I used to play for when I was a junior, and even in the younger senior years, it was a very physical one. And when
Yeah.
you think about all the jumping, landing, thumping, it does take a toll. So as we get older, we don't put ourselves in that situation anywhere near as much, because the next day really hurts. And you come out and you try and get out of bed and you're going, what? And I used to have to stretch in bed before I got out every morning
Yeah.
to try and cope with those aches and pains. And the nice part is it's become normal not to have those aches and pains. And
Yeah.
that is really key, that I can sit and I don't have to stop myself from doing certain things, because if I sit too long, like, it's all those extra flow on effects that I've had through my general life. It's not just about sport. It does allow me to play sport against people that are, and it was funny, I was looking at one of the Melbourne uni teams that I played against, and I figured that I was actually 3 times the age of some of those kids in that team.
Yeah.
I'm going, okay, so not only could I be your mother, I could be your grandmother. So that it it does give you that concept that it's okay. I can still work. I still protect myself, and I'm certainly not going to try and keep up with them because they're
Yeah.
fast little buggers. But it does mean that I can still participate. I can
Yeah.
still enjoy the social aspect that comes with playing sport, because that's something that we lose. If COVID taught us nothing else, is that we're social creatures
Yes.
and we
Sure.
need to have contact. But this allows me to come out the next day after playing a game and not doubting my own choice to have played that night before, that I can still keep going.
That's really good. I just want to just remind the listeners as well. So today we're talking about improving his long-term strength outside of going to the gym, and we're talking about some of the classes that Lyne Strmecki has been doing with us as well. So Lynn is a well, she works in HR field, but she's played a competitive sport all her life at the highest level in basketball and domestic, and coached all over. And we're just talking about her journey over the last well, the last 12 months, but prior to that too. I wanted to talk about two particular things, but more things today. And that one is that you talked about the two injuries you had: your knee reconstruction you had done when you got to your ACL in your 40s, and then the Achilles rupture that we had a year or so after that too. We we when we started working on this about 12 months ago as well, it's something we really looked at in your part of your program as well. And I don't know how you felt about it. For us, it was like, okay, we need to address these things as well. We can't let them just be background noise and not work on them. How did that feel to you that we said, like, we're still going to work on these things? I know you're not, they're not strong enough, but we need to change this. We don't want to, we can't leave this the way it is. How did that feel to you? And then, and how did you feel like working on those areas?
I think at first you develop a level of fear because there is that uncertainty around those injuries because my knee makes some great snap, crackle, and pop sounds.
Yes.
Um, but understanding what is okay to push to a limit, which is some of the things you've been talking about,
Yeah.
without providing damage. You don't want to do additional damage to what you've already done in there. And also with the not the poor rehab, I would have said, I maybe got to the 50% of rehab when I did the injuries, had them, surgically repaired. But this is helping me keep going because every time one muscle group doesn't work well enough, another muscle group has to come in and pick up the load.
Yeah.
It's never not picked up the load unless you just don't do what it is. And we've got to walk, we've got to bend, we've got to be able to reach that top shelf and so go on tippy toes. So
Yep.
now where I'm like looking at, I think initially knowing what I used to be able to do was my biggest frustration, is that
Right.
I used to be strong. And now I try and do this and I'm wobbling all over the place. So the advancement that I can see over the last 12 months has really underpinned that trust that I'd gone, well, that's a method. If I'm doing this, I'm trusting the method. I've got health professionals that are trained to have an understanding. It's not just going to see a personal trainer who's done a 6 to 12-week course and has come out with a certificate. Not putting them down or degrading them, but when you're talking about managing um, rehab from a very much a surgical and then or a past surgical sort of situation, or even something where you you've fallen over and you've been compensating and, muscles switch off. That was, the big thing and trying to make sure that the right muscle groups are doing things. And that's crucial. And that's what I've found the difference now of when you say, let's go and put the band around your knees and we're going to then do this sort of squat. It's like, yeah, actually I can do that. It's not,
Yeah. You can. Yeah.
and it's not worrying that I can't. There's always going to be that next challenge level. I never thought I'd be lifting, the weights that I'm lifting as either when you first said, let's go and start on the bar. And it's like, okay, I'll give it a go. And I suppose that's the biggest thing of going, if you're coming into anywhere from 40s onwards, you've got to surround yourself with people who have a good knowledge and are keeping up to date because I know myself from coaching, the evolution of where coaching has come from when I was coached to when I was coaching at an elite level
Mm.
and that evolution that was coming through Basketball Australia to even now that I've been out of it for, you know, good 6 to 8 years is that there's been evolution. So you've got to surround yourself with people who can provide you with that guidance. And that's what I've found is that everyone's been able to take on board information I tell them. Sometimes I'll be able to say, okay, this is making a snap, crackle and pop noise here. Is that normal? Am I in the right angle? This weight feels a bit too heavy. And there'll be times where they say, look, just give it a bit more and we'll go there and then I can adapt it if I need to. That makes a difference because sometimes that fear just holds you back from pushing yourself and sometimes just doing what you're told. It's nice to, it's just like, okay, I'll do that because my brain is not really ready to think about this.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's a great insight as well because we can often have practitioners you can see when you're pushing someone to that limit as well. And I said to you, then we're going to start lifting some weights and doing some classic deadlifts and rack pulls as well. And why that's so important. And particularly, we know now that for women especially for women. It's like this wasn't on our radar 15 years ago or 10 years ago. And now we know that, those kind of classical strength conditioning exercises together with a lot of the control work is super important for bone density, from preserving muscle mass in the long term. And when we're looking at doing this in women in their 40s and 50s and who have never lifted those kind of weights before, we're looking at the next 30, 40 years is that we want great bone density. As you said, that fear of falling, there's so many repercussions with that too. Like, if you feel a fear of falling, you change your activity levels, you do less, the muscles get weaker, you do even less, your risk of falling goes up. That spiral, we want to stop. We want to stop it as soon as we possibly can. And we're looking at your future. That conversation at the start is like, oh, Michael's asking me to do this. And I'm looking at what this is going to look like for 20 years, not just at this moment. And if I don't introduce you to something you're uncomfortable doing, we can't do that. And then the loads required to stimulate bone growth, there's a certain amount of compression force required. Bones will adapt to compression, and they do that all through our lives. It doesn't stop as we get older, but they need the stimulus, and they will respond to exactly what you ask it to do. If we stimulate it to grow, it will grow. If we don't stimulate it to grow, it won't grow. It'll adapt exactly what we ask it to do. And so that's what we want to really achieve. And the fact that you built the confidence, and this is why we call this show the Confident Body Show, is that we wanted to share the experiences of people building confidence in their body when it's not always the most comfortable or easy thing to do, so that you can have a better life. So that, well, let's talk about the next thing. What does your sporting life look like now? So you're 58 at the moment too. You still play competitive sport occasionally, sometimes more often than others. What does that look like? I mean, as you said, it hasn't stopped. Now you can play. You can still play competitive sport.
And I think being able to take to a basketball court where you've got a variety of ages, and as I said, sometimes 2 or 3 times younger than you,
Yeah.
and also the fact that when they hit the floor, they bounce back up. We hit the floor and someone helps me back up. There's a real big difference on that. But the fact that I'm willing to take contact, that I'm not fearful that, oh, by doing that, I'm going to have a poor reaction. But it also helps with, you don't even think about it and your body moves in the way that
Yeah.
it needs to move, that your brain says, you know, you're doing a lateral movement. So nothing's ever, and that's the thing about sport. When you're playing sport, you are not calculating, I'm going to do this to do that. Like when you might be going to do something around home and you're planning, oh, I can lift this, I can do that. Sport is a read and react 9 times out of 10. It's responding to what the other stimuli is around you. So it doesn't, a lot of the time you're relying on muscle memory, that if you don't have that, and if your body goes to act in a certain way and push off on a knee, and it goes, nah, that's got no support there. I'm just going, keep going in that direction. So
Yes.
now it's actually that confidence that I can do that, that I'm not having to think all the time before I move, that it can go into a more read and react. Doesn't mean that I actually keep up with any of them, but you pick your battles.
Yeah. I mean, just before we wrap up today as well, I mean, I love some of the insights you said it in terms of, you didn't want to go to the gym as well. It's the same thing. It's boring. You don't, for you, it is anyway. Yeah, the fact that it's small, you were able to work on your strength. It's small group classes that are supervised by health professionals that can make it different, that allow you the confidence to make a difference. And then we were able to then challenge you, gave you the confidence to then give things a go that you wouldn't otherwise. And then we're having a conversation 12 months later that, you can play competitive sport. It's not something you stop. That when your body reacts, it's a normal thing to do. And you've built the muscle and the brain knowledge that you can just do it without worrying about it too, which is what we want to see as health practitioners. You're able to have the best life you possibly can. Any other comments for the listeners before we wrap up today?
I suppose the big thing is that when I started investing into making sure my body is going to keep going, a lot of it wasn't about so I could play sport.
Yeah.
A lot of it was that in how many years can I pick that thing up? Can I, when grandkids come around, am I going to be physically able to run around with them? What it's about the other life skills that go on, that you want to be able to, but you don't think about it in the same way that we've always thought about. Can I get myself on the sporting, back
Yep.
on the court? How can I keep on there? And that's the nice part that I can. It all comes about together. That you work on your body and you keep that strength going, and you keep that going because I have a lot more I want to do, whether it be go hike a mountain, and we've just had someone come back from the Camino Trail.
Yes.
Um, it's that type of different goals that everyone has that we're in the gym. Sometimes it's just so that what they're able to keep working at a really comfortable level in their everyday life, or play a game of basketball against their kids and in the driveway. That's the big part of why. Why would you do this? Why do you keep going? Yes, it's great to be able to play sport because that gives you a lot there. But it's the rest of life that you gain from for the next 20 or 30 years because you can.
Thank you very much for your time, Lynn. I think it's a wonderful conversation as well. I might have asked you to be on this podcast a few weeks ago. You said, "Oh, I think if you think I've got something to share, I think you got some really great insights to share." Even that last bit that you said as well is to be able to have that life that you want. It's very hard to imagine when you step in on the day one that this is the life I'm going to have in 12 months. And as health practitioners, that's what we see. Like, you're coming in the door to the life you want to have. Give your body the time and effort it needs, and that life will happen. It doesn't always happen at the time frames people want. Sometimes they want quick results, and that's not going to happen. But if with that time, persistence, and effort, it's just amazing, and it's very rewarding as a health practitioner that we see people's lives really change and have the life that they deserve. And that's what we want to keep seeing as well. And the great thing about it now, compared to say 20 years ago, is that these tools are available. It is evolving. It is present. You can do these things. You can have a great life. And we're continually thinking 20, 30 years ahead for the life we want we guys to have. And that's just lovely to see, something we just wouldn't be able to achieve 20 years ago.
Now, I was the day I decided to walk in the door, and actually that was probably the hardest thing of going, do
Yeah.
I have enough trust to come in here and see what they've got? And I'm just so pleased that I did. And the 13-week challenge to start off with, I think that's kind of necessary at the start because you've got to build a repetition. You've got
Yeah.
to build a habit. And then it comes from there. You start seeing what's going on. And like, I was really lucky that halfway through that, I could quite clearly see a benefit from what I was doing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a hard proof, but the challenge, that still went up and down through that 12 months.
Yeah.
It's not always an upward climb. It's that lovely wavy line that
Maybe I.
goes through. But yeah, it's been a real benefit. So I'm really pleased that I did make that commitment to start off with.
Right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Lynn. Hope listeners got a really good amount of information as well. And we'll keep keeping it at that basketball court.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.